It's 8 o'clock in Colorado Springs, 7 o'clock on the West Coast, and time for the Thursday night D-Star Roundtable. This is Bob, W6KD, filling in for Mike, N60HH, the HKH, and our host who's under the weather tonight. This is a roundtable style net. We don't take check-ins to give ourselves time to talk D-Star. So it's topic-driven. We try to actually cover substantial material and not fill the net up with idle chit-chat, check-ins, etc. The net is online. Roundtable.tech is a bulletin board with a shout box where you can enter text comments, and for those that are throwing out websites or other data that might entail writing something down, it's a great place to go and put that stuff so everybody can see it. That information is archived at the end of the net and put into it's put into the history. So if for those of us who are listening via the Broadcastify feed or the podcast, which go up later the day after, you can still go through and take a look and see what was posted on the shout box during the net. It's posted in the history at roundtable.tech. So with that, I'm going to reset. And as usual, we'll start out the net with 60 seconds of D-Star Basics. And tonight, 60 seconds of D-Star Basics is going to talk about DTMF or dial tone etiquette when using hotspots and repeaters with D-Star. For those of you who have radios with dial tone pads, the older ICOM 91s and 92s, most of the mobile radios, the 10 with D74, you have the ability to QSY between reflectors by entering DTMF commands on your radio. And rather than having to program memories in the radio, you can do it directly through keypad entry. You can link, you can disconnect, and you just need to be aware that when you do that, you actually are transmitting through whatever you're connected on. The dial tones themselves won't be heard, but it does leave an artifact that sounds sort of like a baby sucking on a bottle every time you press a key. So it masks the tone, but it does still key up the reflector and everything connected to it, and leave some audio artifacts. So if you're going to switch, if you're going to link to a different reflector, repeater, whatever, using your DTMF pad, it's considered good etiquette to disconnect via either by sending a regular disconnect command with a memory in your radio, or you can use the pound key. You key up and just press the pound key, and that'll disconnect you from whatever you're on, and then you can enter the DTMF tones, and it'll just go to your hotspot or your repeater, and it won't transmit through the reflector. And that way people don't have to listen to that sound every time you hit a key there, and that's considered to be good etiquette there. So that's 60 seconds of D-Star Basics. So a reset. Okay, at this point I'm going to open it up for announcements. If you have announcements, for the general community, please key up now.
K6KD WE5EK.
Okay, I have K6KD and WE5EKU. John, K6KD, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, first, thanks very much, Bob, for jumping in and doing the net. I just wanted to mention that the KD5 RAB image has been updated as of yesterday. It now includes DMR Gateway. It includes a built-in web server that will serve up a dashboard, a very nice dashboard. A similar dashboard is on the YSF reflectors, if you're familiar with that. And so I can I put in some new threads. We can, if there's interest later during topics, we can talk about that. But I just want to mention this image is now available. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, John, thanks for that. And yeah, for those of you who don't know what the KB5RAB image is, it's an MMDVM-based image that allows you to use a Raspberry Pi-based hotspot with something like a DV Mega, or if you have one of the newer MMDVM boards, and you can use it in D-Star mode. It's the same author, G4KLX, wrote the underlying MMDVM software, and so you can use it for D-Star hotspot, just like you use D-Star IRC-DDB gateway for D-Star. It's the same author, and in fact, a lot of the same code in there. So, but it also does DMR and Fusion as well, the open source versions of those. So, if you haven't tinkered with it, if you're running a DV Mega hotspot right now, you have everything you need to play with that. And so, you can take the SD card that you have programmed with say, D-Star Commander or Maryland or Western D-Star, and you can just pull that out and set it off to the side. You can program up the KB5RAB, download that image, flash it to your card, and have at it. And it's a very well done image, if I must say so myself. So thanks. And let's see, Don, WB5EKU, you're next, Brad.
46KD in the net, WB5EKU. I'd like to echo my thanks, Bob, for taking over the net. I heard about, Mike being under the weather, so thank you very much. Certainly appreciate you doing it. John kind of stole my thunder. I was going to mention a little bit about the new KB5RAB image, but he did it. The dashboard that's in there is CAM DG9VH, which is kind of the it's getting to be kind of the basic dashboard for MMDVM, and it also has a DMR gateway in it, which allows you to have more than one DMR host available. So I don't know if how familiar people are with DMR, but DMR has three basic flavors: Moto Turbo, DMR Plus, and Brandmeister. Let me reset here. And the DMR gateway allows you to have all three of those available on your MMDVM system. It does work really well on a Raspberry Pi DV Mega combination, but you can also have it using MMDVM and run a repeater on it. It will do a full duplex repeater. In the repeater mode, you can add a fourth protocol, P25, which is, I know it's not out there a lot, and I know there are people that are not that wild about it, but it is a protocol, and it is available. So it's a very interesting, very interesting flavor of MMDVM, and KB5RAB did a real nice job on it. So thank you, John, and thank you, Bob. WB5EKU, Bernardo Hills.
K6K.
And K6KD is acknowledged. I might point out also, thanks, Don, by the way, I might point out also there's a fourth emerging option for DMR master servers, and that is the XLX reflectors, the next generation of XLX reflectors, which is just about upon us. We'll do both DMR and D-Star. And I'm sure we'll be having more discussions about that in the future as that capability is fielded and evolves. But that, in conjunction with the ability to transcode and work between D-Star and DMR, is going to be it's going to be interesting. There are some implementations already out there. This is, from what I've observed, the absolute best of them, and and it's coming soon to a XLX reflector near you. And okay, John, K6KD, go ahead.
Oh, that's what I was just going to mention that the XLX DMR is one of the other flavors of DMR that the KB5 REB image and similar images support. Anyway, back to you, Bob.
Okay, and let's see, we're still on announcements. Does anybody else have, does anybody else have an announcement for the net? Please give it. Okay, nothing seen there, so I guess we're done with the announcements. Old business. Does anybody have anything they want to add to the discussions from the last week or two? Add to corrections or expansions on the discussions we've had here on the net in the last week or two? Please keep now. Okay, I guess we covered all those topics well. Next, well, I don't really have a lot of prepared topics. That sort of got dropped on me at the last minute, so I'm not going to go into prepared topics. So we'll open up the floor and see what folks are interested in here. I have a couple ideas of things we might talk about, but let's see if there's any topics that you folks want to talk about. So anybody with a topic worthy of discussion on the net, please queue up now.
N3WZU.
Okay, I have N3WZU. Wes and Waldorf, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, a little bit more about what we were discussing earlier about updating your host files. And I learned a lot today, talking to you and some other folks here on this reflector. And for those that may have not done this, it's a bit of a challenge in Windows especially. But downloading the host files and then saving them to the proper folder. And being a Windows 10 user, I had to make sure whenever I wanted to update a file that was that didn't have permission, I happened to go onto in that file folder where it's was it program files x86, Windows DV, whatever program. Also, even with the DV4 Mini, it's the same way. Right-clicking on the file in DV4 Mini, it's an IP file, but they're host files here on these programs that I'm talking about, the DV4Win, or the Blue DV has its own automatic update. But right-clicking on the file and going to properties, and then security, and you got to check the boxes on permissions and allow Windows to overwrite your text files or your host files. So I went through that process today. It's a little more meat and potatoes than just going to this web page and finding the new host file and copying it to your hard drive. Getting it to the proper place on the hard drive. For those that don't know, that's a little bit of a topic to discuss with the folks that don't know how to do it. I just learned how today. So anyway, back to you. Thanks for letting me put my 2 cents in. And if anybody has some questions, I'm sure the host will know what to do. Back to you, N3WZU.
Okay, Wes. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, we had a long discussion earlier today host files, and in particular, one topic we've mentioned this before on the net previously, but it probably bears repeating given the increasing number of folks that are not just using WinDV, but the DV4 Mini software on the Windows platform as well. There's a nasty little protection feature built into Windows. You would think that if you're logged into Windows as an administrator, you could go anywhere and do anything without any further ado, and that's really not the case. Windows treats any folder that starts with the name Program Files, Program Space Files. It could be Program Files x86, Program Files Billy Bob's directory, Program Files whatever. But if the name starts with Program Files, Windows treats that as a special type of protected directory, a program directory. And even though you're logged in as an administrator, it will still require you or any program to be running explicitly as an administrator in order to change files in that folder, and it can really get in the way if you're not careful. The hell of it is that some of the software out there, the popular software like WinDV, and I believe the DV4 Mini software as well, installs itself by default into a Program Files or Program Files x86 folder, and so you're stuck with that if you don't install it somewhere else. So the easiest and most efficient way of keeping yourself out of that trap is when you install the program, install it to any other folder, C:\WinDV or C:\\DStar or whatever, anything but Program Files. And the normal file permissions should prevail, and you should be able to avoid that. But it's a gotcha, and sometimes programs can't even write to their own config files if the program is not run explicitly as an administrator in that situation. So just beware. It's a potential gotcha. It's been out there for a long time. Every version of Windows since Windows Vista, so that includes Vista, 7, 8, and 10, have all had some variation on this theme. So thanks, Wes. Any more comments on host files, host file updates, and how to or reset here? Anyway, how to or where to look or whatever. The current topic is host files. So if you're interested, if you have a question, if you have a comment, please key up now.
WR1U.
Okay, WR1U. Welcome to the roundtable. I don't recognize the call sign there. Go ahead.
How you doing? Name here is Gary, located in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Just walking into work. What's the best place to look for host files? I do have a place saved on my iPad, and I download them to Dropbox to get into my repeater computer, but not sure if it's really all the best place to look. I've noticed sometimes the IP addresses are wrong, especially for the XRF reflectors. Back to net, WR1U.
Okay, Gary. Well, thanks for the question. And there are three big clearinghouses, if you will, for host file data. One of them I maintain. It's maintained primarily for the benefit of my DStar Commander software, but it's available to anybody. You can go download the file. It's just a plain text file, and you can find links to the location for that in my support forum at w6kd.boards.net. The second one would be Ramesh, VA3UV, who maintains a set of host files for the Freestar system up in Canada. And if you Google Victor Alpha 3 Uniform Victor, I think you can probably do a little Google foo and find your way there as well, and he maintains a set of host files primarily for the use of people running OpenStar, but again, all of the data is in text files. And then the third one is Adrian, VK4TUX down in Australia, runs a server that's got actually a very comprehensive list that includes most of the repeaters and a lot of other stuff. You have to be careful because if you use the entire host file there, it's enormous. It can slow things down a little. But if you're looking for host file data for pretty much any repeater out there, his probably has it. So those are the three big ones. There are some others out there. I believe that Hans DL5DI, the guy that keeps the repo for the IRC DDB gateway software, has one somewhere. I've not seen it, but I've heard mention of it. So there's other places out there. But the big three that I'm familiar with, at least, are D-Star Commander, the Freestar, and Adrian's VK4TUX. So those are the three good places to look. Anybody have anything to add? Key up now.
K6KD.
K6KB.
K6KD, go ahead, John.
Well, I'm going to mention another one that is, it's not what I recommend going to, but it's important to know about because many of the products that get host files go to this source and sometimes leading to problems, and sometimes they'll work with it and fix things up. And I'm referring specifically to the XLX API server. That maintains host files for all XLX reflectors. But what it does is, for convenience, I guess, for every XLX reflector, it will include an REF, a DCS, and an XRF prefix. So it'll essentially create three separate host files. Well, they're concatenated in one big file, but they're basically three separate host file information. And there are distributions that get that. The problem is there are a lot of reflectors, particularly XRF and as well as DCS, that are not XLX. And if you just take the information from the XLX server, you'll go to an XLX reflector when you intended to go to the XRF reflector. The one thing they do is they know that legacy DCS goes from 1 to about 32, so they make exceptions. So what happens is typically people will get a new device, and they'll find that it goes to some of the reflectors but not others, and it's oftentimes that is the reason. So I'm not suggesting that as a place to get sources. I think Bob's FTP is a much better place, but it's important to know about that because that is the source of a lot of confusion. And hopefully I didn't answer the confusion. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, thanks, John. And the XLX host files generally, you can have an XLX reflector and also an X reflector by the same number. In fact, I own one like that, 555. One of the reflectors is connected here to the constellation. XRF 555 is the DXRFD. That's the name of the software. It's a fourth generation X reflector that's connected here to the constellation. If you use the data from the XLX host files, it will point you at XLX 555, which is a different reflector. It's also mine, but it will unfortunately allow you to connect to it as XRF 555, but you won't be talking to anybody here on the constellation because you're on a completely separate reflector. I normally use that for testing, and that reflector is normally accessed as REF 555 or as DCS 555, but it can also be accessed as XRF. So if you find yourself connecting to one and it links up okay, you get link 2, and it sounds like a normal link, but you don't see anybody there, you can't talk to anybody on it, you're probably linked to an XLX reflector that doesn't match up with where you think you're supposed to be. So, and if you go to the dashboard, you don't see yourself there. Well, that's another clue that maybe you're linked somewhere else. And then it's time to go investigate what exactly is in your host files, because ultimately, the host file is like the dialing directory in your phone. When you tell it to connect to XRF002, it doesn't go out to some big clearinghouse in the sky and know exactly where the one and only XRF2 is. It goes to the directory in your gateway in your phone, as it were. And if you have it set, with the phone number to your girlfriend, it's going to dial your girlfriend. If you have it set with the phone number to dial a prayer, that's where you're going to get as well. So the host file works kind of the same way. Whatever you have in your local host file is what you're going to link up to. So knowing where your host data comes from and what's in there is kind of important sometimes, particularly with some of the reflectors that double up as XLXs. And I'll leave it at that. Does anybody else have anything to add? More comments or discussion on host files? Please key up now. Okay, well, I guess we've covered that one as completely as we're going to tonight, anyway. And I will add that the host files on my server for D-Star Commander were updated about a week and a half ago. For those of you using D-Star Commander, you can use the command from your radio. Just you set host update. That's HOSTUPDT in your call, and just key it up to your gateway, and it will tell your gateway to go out to the internet, find the host files, load them up, and parse them up, and have them ready to go right there on your hotspot. So it was updated a week and a half ago, and for those of you who manually update or use that data, it's there for the taking as well. Just like I said, go to w6kd.boards.net, and the links to those host files are posted there, and feel free to download them and use them as you will. Okay, next, any more topics to discuss? And by the way, thanks, Wes, for bringing that up. That was a good discussion topic. Topics for the net, please key up.
KB02ZR.
Okay, I've got KD9HOK, Greg, and KD0QZR, Justin. KD9HOK, go ahead. Or I'm sorry, HDK. I can't read the. No, it is okay. I'll get it right. KD9HOK, go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Bob. This is KD9HOK. First name here is Greg, and I am transmitting from Matteson, Illinois, about 35 miles southwest of Chicago, and I'm speaking through the NS9RC repeater. Bob, I have a question. I'm relatively new to D-Star. I have the ICOM ID 5100. My question is about gateway calls. I'm familiar with how to make gateway calls. I'm familiar with how to program the radio to do such. But my question is, in relation to Europe, is there anyone out there that can give me any advice as to maybe a good time to put out a gateway call, and or maybe a good town or anything like that might be helpful for me to get started with some D-Star gateway calls? So that's my question. This is KD9HOK. Back to Bob.
Okay, Greg. The terminology you're using, gateway call, is a little unfamiliar to me. I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit on exactly what you're asking there. I've not heard that term of art used before.
All right. Well, maybe I'm speaking out of term. What I'm referring to is making an international call to, like, let's say, to Germany. Um, I was trying to do so and could not really raise anyone to speak to. So, due to the language barrier, I then again tried in England to make a few calls that way internationally, and again, no luck. So, I was just wondering if there's a good time to do a call like that, or if I may be doing something wrong. I don't know. Like I said, I am new to D-Star, so any help would be appreciated.
Okay, Greg, you need to leave a couple of seconds, a good one potato, two potato, between the end of the previous transmission and keying up. You tail ended me there, and you didn't go through any of the connected reflectors. You were on 2, but you weren't on 310 or 310 or 555. So if you would, please, one more time, if you would repeat that, and in general for folks, yeah, please make sure not to tailgate because if you come in fast enough, you can knock yourself off the connected network reflectors. So, Greg, go ahead again.
Oh, my apologies. Just goes to show how new I am. Yeah, that was me tailgating. That's my fault. Anyways, my question is about international calls. If there's any suggestions as to a good time to make international calls, and maybe if there's any nets that take place, maybe over in Europe or something like that, that I might be able to tune into, that would be helpful.
Okay, Greg. Well, that went through. And anybody want to help Greg? Please key up.
N3WZU.
Okay, Wes, thanks. N3WZU, go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the other gentleman, let me see if I can catch his call sign on the screen here. KD9HOK. Your name didn't come through, so I didn't catch your name. Have you gone to the dstarinfo.com page? And it's all lowercase, dstarinfo, all one word, .com. And there is a bunch of information there. There's a Nets tab that you can click on, and it'll literally tell you where the nets are, what reflector they're on. They're in local time, their local time, and then it's also in UTC time. And I'm not sure how many overseas. There is a Barcelona net. This may get you in the ballpark of getting you in the right direction. There's nets listed. For instance, Ohio State wide D-Star net. It's on a Sunday. It's 2000 hours Eastern Standard Time. I'm just picking one out of my hat, which is 00 Zulu time, and it's on XRF 038 Alpha. There's a whole list of nets there. There's more information on that page that may get you in the direction you want to go. That was the first page I could think of. There's many others. If you have Google or search engine, type in D-Star, and there's a whole slew of information that might put you in the right direction. Back to net, N3WZU, and that was dstarinfo.com. Back to net, N3WZU.
Okay, Wes, thanks for that. Anybody Anybody else have anything to add?
N9K.
Okay, I have K6KD and N9KO. K6KD, John, go ahead.
Okay, there's a table of X reflectors, and that includes both the traditional X reflectors and XLX reflectors that I maintain. The URL is xrefl.net, X-ray Romeo Echo Foxtrot Lima.net. That lists reflectors all over the world. There's a brief listing of nets at the top, but those are mostly right now they're mostly in North America. But a lot of the reflectors listed are in other countries. And in a lot of cases, there are, in addition to reflector dashboard links, there are also links for organizations. So one thing you can do is click on a dashboard, and you can see if there's activity going on, and then that would be a clue to maybe try that out. And then in addition, as I say, with a lot of them, they're organization links. You can click and see a little bit about the organization that's sponsoring the reflector. That's xrefl.net. And back to you, Bob.
Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, the John's directory there at xrefl.net is it's a great place to go. It will, if you've not been there before, it'll definitely broaden your horizon by giving you an idea of what's out there in the X reflector world. And there are hundreds of X reflectors. Unfortunately, people go down to HRO, they buy a dongle, they load Robin software, and they go to an REF reflector, and they get this view of the world through a soda straw, and you don't realize all of the other stuff that's out there. And in particular, the X reflectors and the XLX reflectors are the popularity is exploding, and so it's a great place to go, xrefl.net, to see what's out there. The other thing, well, I'll tell you what, I'll pass it over to Cal, N9KO. I'll let you take it, and then I got another comment or two. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Bob, and hi, Greg, fellow Chicagoan here. Another website to take a look at is xreflector.net, and that covers the DCS reflectors. There's a column on the far left-hand side of that web page. You scroll down that column, take a look at DCS 005, that's Great Britain. DCS 006 is US, and there's others. And in each of those, there's a user's link. Click on that, and you'll see it's a last true format. And keep timing. Keep in mind to maybe get a world clock. Right now, Great Britain is pretty much, other than a few weeks, they do daylight savings time also, but it's not the same time we do. So there's a couple weeks of difference. But they're 6 hours ahead. So right now it's about 20 minutes to 4 o'clock in the morning. So if you get into an English repeater, you won't be talking to one. Let's see, Australia is 14 to 15 hours ahead of us. So you do the math. And about noon 1 o'clock Australia time. And I think New Zealand's a couple hours ahead of that. So it's like maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So get a nice world clock app and put that on your desktop, and where you can jump around in different cities. And also, you're on the NS9RC D-Star repeater, and in the mornings on the NS9RC 70 centimeter analog, a group of us usually get together 7, 8 o'clock ish, and we're usually chatting about types of digital radio. So join in if you got a question. Back to Net Control, N9KO.
Okay, Cal, thanks for that. And yeah, I was going to mention the same. The hams around the world are much like us. There's a lot of activity in the afternoon and evening when folks get home from work, and certainly on the weekends. And I lived in Germany for a number of years, and for whatever reason, it seemed like Sunday was play day, and the bands were much busier. The local traffic, anyway, was much busier on Sundays than pretty much any other time during the week, at least where I lived. The other thing I would offer up as well is that the XLX reflectors are very, very popular in Europe. The software is developed by a couple guys in Luxembourg, and in fact, the developer of the DCS reflectors has said that he's going to be converting his from DCS over to the XLX reflectors as well. So if you go to xrefl.net, the site we were talking about earlier, and go to one of the XLX reflectors, the dashboards on the XLX reflectors have a button up at the top called Reflector List, and that will give you a list of all of the XLX reflectors. And there's a lot of European stuff there. And if you go looking on, a lot of them will give you an idea. Well, it tells you what country they're in. So if you're looking for Germany or Italy or the UK, whatever, you can see that, and that's a good place to go looking, because the XLX reflectors are kind of I think that's sort of the main effort in Europe right now. And then one other thing I would put a plug in for is if you've never done multiple hotspots, or if you don't have a hotspot, it's a great way to do the kind of thing you're talking about. If you have several different ways of getting into the D-Star system, you can throw a wider net. You can have a hotspot parked on a reflector in Germany, and another one parked on a reflector in the UK, and it gives you a much broader net, to kind of scoop up and bring in the world to your shack. So if you haven't done it, there's definitely some benefits to it. I have a large number of hotspots here, and yeah, it's very useful. Anyway, all right. Any more comments before I pass it back to Greg?
AB3XT.
AB3XT. Andy, go ahead.
Good evening, Bob and the net. Excuse me. Thanks for being out there, Bob, to take control of the ship this evening in Mike's absence. And good evening, everybody else out there. I just wanted to make one specific recommendation for Greg. I believe it's Greg, the new ham, who's new into D-Star. If it's not Greg, I apologize. I hope you're going to enjoy D-Star. I think you're going to, and it's a great community, and this is really a great place to find some good information, so you made it to the right spot. The one suggestion I would have for you is try Reflector 001 Charlie, 001 Charlie. A lot of international stations there, a lot of UK stations there, mostly English speakers. I assume that's what you wanted. And that's a good place to make contacts, and a lot of really nice people on there that you'll find. The second thing I would mention is on Sunday evenings is the International D-Star Net, also on Reflector 1 Charlie. And it starts either at 7 or 8 Central, I forget which one. But again, there are a lot of international stations and a lot of nice people on there checking in. So that's a good place to start. I think you'll enjoy that. Back to you, Bob, from AB3XT.
Okay, Andy. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I didn't even think about the international net. Of course, if you can corner somebody on the international net from Germany or the UK or wherever you're interested in, you could always either get their email or otherwise work meet up with them after the net or whatever, and they can probably give you a much better idea of what where the places to go are in their respective corner of the world. So, yeah, good idea, Andy, and thanks. Any more comments?
K7AOR.
K,
K6KD.
K6KB.
Okay, I've got K7AOR and K6KD. K7AOR, I don't have the name. I don't recognize the call. If you'd give us your name, and go ahead.
Good evening to the net. Yes, this is K7AOR. Jeff is my name. I also am fairly new to D-Star. Just been doing it for about a week, maybe 2 weeks now. And the way that I started and started connecting to people all over the world, besides using my open spot, was I went to the Last Heard, and I don't know if anyone has said anything about that on the D-Star info site, or if you just Google Last Heard on D-Star, it will show you what reflectors or repeaters their ham calls are showing up on. And sometimes it's kind of fun to chase that just to see if you can talk to somebody there. I've done it with a lot of the Japanese guys who are normally talking on their reflectors in the middle of the night when I'm typically up because of my work schedule. And so I found that kind of fun. And then that's when I started learning about all the different nets and whatnot, and then been connected to people through the nets. So everybody else's advice is great, but if someone hadn't mentioned that, I wanted to make sure that I did. Back to you.
Okay, Jeff. Thanks. And by the way, what corner of the country are you calling from?
I'm in hot, sweltering Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, the Valley on the Sun. I mean, of the Sun. Yes. Yeah, I'm a Phoenix area. Well, I grew up there. I guess I'm not a native anymore. I haven't lived there in a long time. But don't envy your summers. Okay. Thanks a lot for that, Jeff. K6KD, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just going to point out, and let me get out of earshot of my bird, because she has been known to issue, going back to D-Star Basics, she's been known to issue DTMS disconnects. So, yeah. It turns out this constellation is linked to a number of facilities in Europe. There's a reflector in Austria, and if you can look at the dashboard of these European reflectors, and you'll see your call signs there right now. If you go to xrefl.net and click on XRF022, that's in Austria. If you click on 706 or 773, both of them are in Italy. You'll see your call signs, and those are both connected to a lot of several repeaters. This time of the night, there's not, and maybe the language is a little bit of a discouragement, but this is being heard, and we get a lot of participation from Australia and New Zealand on this net, so maybe some of those folks will check in too, or not check in, but comment at some point. Anyway, back to net, K6KD.
Okay, very good. Thanks, John. And with that, I'm going to send it back to KD9HOK. Greg, have we overflowed your cup yet?
This is KD9HOK. Wow, this has really been an educational experience for me tonight. And I just want to say thank you to Wes, John, Cal, Andy, Jeff, and also to you, Bob, for all the very helpful information. I've got an entire page of notes here, and I was jotting down notes during everyone's comments. And I just wanted to say thank you. As a new ham, this means a lot to me, and I've got plenty of information here to research. And, yeah, just wanted to say thanks, guys. So with that being said, this is KD9HOK back in the group listening, and turning it back to Bob at Net Control.
Okay, Greg. Well, thanks for bringing the topic up. It's always good to go through. I mean, this wasn't basic stuff, but it's always good to revisit the fact that there's a wide world out there, and it's real easy to kind of get kind of in a rut. You get into your local repeater or whatever, and you talk to the same three guys, and you don't realize how much is really out there if you don't go out and look at some of this stuff. And by the way, don't be a stranger. The constellation here, I don't think I mentioned it during the preamble. I didn't have the script in front of me. So I kind of winged it. And if you're here, you probably know already. But the constellation is XRF002 Alpha, XRF 310 Alpha, XRF 555 Alpha, and XLX212 Alpha, which can be accessed either as an REF 212 Alpha, XRF 212 Alpha, or DCS 212 Alpha. And anyway, this constellation is not a one-trick pony. We hold the roundtable here every Thursday night. We hold a couple of other nets as well. I believe Monday and Saturday evenings at oh darn, I'm going to have to guess at this. If I got it wrong, my profuse apologies to BE6DV, but I believe it's 6 o'clock Mountain Time. There's the 100 watts and a wire net as well, and during the day and other times the constellation is open for general traffic and use, and certainly don't be a stranger. So I believe I saw Cal N9KOK up again. Cal, did you want to get back in?
Yeah, I don't want just a quick one for Greg. Greg, just sometimes, like 1 Charlie, reflector 1 Charlie, and just put out your call and say, I'm looking to find somebody who in England, Scotland, or whatever who's familiar with whatever. And someone's there, they'll come back, and it never hurts to ask. And if you may get the answer you want that way. But key is to enjoy it, Greg. Back to you, Bob, Net Control from N9K.
Okay, AV3XT, Andy, I saw you key up there again.
Bob, I wanted to ask another question when the time comes for another tech question. Sorry if I got out of turn there.
No, not at all. I think we've run the where to look for interesting traffic topic to ground for the time being, and you saved me from calling for new topics. Go ahead.
Okay, cool, thanks. I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on your 60 seconds of D-Star basics. I've got a 92D. I'd like to be able to use the DTMF keypad and not have to program all the reflectors and everything. Could you talk about, maybe give an example how to do that, and if there's documentation? There might be in D-Star Commander documentation, but I haven't looked at it in a while, so maybe you could just talk about that for a second. Thanks, Bob. Back to you.
Okay, and the K7AOR is acknowledged as well as K6KD. The details are in fact documented in the D-Star Commander documentation. So if you're using D-Star Commander, you already have that. Just go look in the documentation folder. You can look in the I believe it's the quick automated setup file. I don't remember. It's been a while since I looked at them as well. But yeah, the details, the syntax is definitely laid out in there. As far as what you can use DTMF commands with, anything that's based on G4KLX's IRC-DV gateway, which includes D-Star Commander, it includes the Western D-Star image, it includes the Maryland image, it includes darn, I forget the fourth one I was going to list. Anyway, if it's based on Jonathan's work, G4KLX, who wrote the core, the underlying software, and these images, they provide a sort of a turnkey solution to load into your Raspberry Pi and run. But Jonathan, G4KLX, did the heavy lifting and wrote the software that really makes it all possible, which is IRC-DDB Gateway and D-Star Repeater, and now there's MMDVM as well, which does D-Star as well as other modes. I'm going to change hands here. Okay, and I believe some of the variations of Freestar, the KI4LKF software, is capable of doing that as well, and some of the repeater software, but not everything, I guess. So not all hotspots are capable of using DTMF tones. So you just this will work on some and it won't work on others. You just have to investigate whatever you're using and make sure that the DTMF functionality is there. But I'll cover briefly how it works with the G4KLX software, since that's kind of that's probably the majority of the hotspot software out there. And to connect to send well, first of all, to unlink, you just key up and press the pound key, and that will unlink you from whatever you're linked to at the time. And to link to a reflector, there are three linking keys. You've got the star key, which is for REF reflectors. You have the B key, which is for XRF reflectors. Don't ask me why, but it's the B Bravo key. And you have D for DCS. That's easy to remember. So you start with the reflector type, and then there are some shortcuts, but I'm just going to give it to you the one way that works every single time, and that's to use all three digits of the reflector number, and then the module. And so if you wanted to link to XRF 555A, you would press B, which is for XRF 555A, and unkey, and that will tell your hotspot to link to XRF 555 alpha, and it'll do it. If you wanted to link to DCS 006 Charlie, you would press D, which is for DCS 006, and C, and that's a linking command to DCS 006 Charlie. There's another shortcut. If you want to use a module that's past that's past D, if you look at your radio, you'll notice that there are no DTMF buttons past the letter D. There's A, B, C, and D, and that's it. So what if you want to connect to XRF 555 Foxtrot F? You can use a 2-digit code which corresponds to the letter in the alphabet. I'm going to reset. And it's basically 01 through 26, A through Z. So F would be the sixth character in the alphabet, so you could go B for XRF 55506, and that'll link you to XRF 555 Foxtrot. And that's basically how it works. And it's a real convenience if you're operating mobile, as I've done a number of times on long trips. Being able to QSY or link and unlink right from your HT or from the DTMF mic on your mobile radio is way nicer than having to mess around with spinning the dial on the radio. So it's a handy feature to have. Unfortunately, all of the production ICOM HTs today don't have a DTMF mic on the front, or a DTMF pad on the front. They don't even have a DTMF mic available for them. And so, I was hoping that the next generation of ICOM handheld was going to bring it back, but they haven't. The good news is is that the Kenwood D74 does have a DTMF pad. It's more expensive, yes, but that capability is for me it's a deal breaker. When I found out that the IC92 was going out of production, I went out and bought a second one because I wasn't going to do without a DTMF pad. So that is it in a nutshell. I'm going to send it back to AB3XT, see if I answered your question, then we'll continue on.
Yeah, Bob, that was great. Thanks very much for that detailed explanation. That was exactly what I was looking for. I hope others found it helpful as well. And Bob, just a big thanks to you for all the work you do on D-Star Commander and helping out the community with everything. Back to you, Bob, from AB3XT.
Okay, well, thanks for the nice words, Andy. And with that, I'll send it over to K7AOR. Jeff, go ahead.
K7AOR, yeah, I didn't have anything else to add. I don't know if maybe you just got a late hit on the screen there. But, nope, just sitting here listening and monitoring. I appreciate the combo.
Okay, not a problem. And John, K6KD, your turn.
Okay, well, that must have been an errant key up, but I was going to thought about keying up anyway just to confound you by complicating it. You know, when you mentioned the two-digit modules, 01 through 26, if you're going to use the numerical form, you do have to use the full 2 digits. So, just as you were saying, module D would be 04. But I think it's also important, and I don't think people will be unduly and helplessly confused if you mention that leading zeros in the 3-digit reflector number may be omitted. And I think that's particularly useful if somebody's driving. And, for example, to get reflector XRF 002 alpha, you do Bravo 2 alpha, and that's it. So I don't think that's too confusing. Back to Ned.
Yep. The G4KLX software will take a abbreviated reflector number. If there are leading zeros, you can leave them out. However, the KI4LKF software and perhaps some of the other hotspot software may not allow that. So if you're using a G4KLX variant, including D-Star Commander, that's exactly true. And for XRF2, that's pretty handy, B2A in your link. But it may not work with your local repeater, and it doesn't work with some other hotspot software. So just beware if you try and it doesn't work. The full 3-digit should work anywhere that the DTMF feature is enabled. And okay, any more comments on DTMF control of hotspots? Kip now. Okay, not seeing anything. I guess we've put that one into the history books as well. Okay, very good. And now a call for topics. Any other questions or topics to discuss? Please keep that. And we have Justin, KD0QZR. I think I saw you earlier and forgot to call you back. If I did, my profuse apologies. Go ahead.
Oh, not a problem, Bob. Appreciate you picking me up this time, though. My question is, being a mobile 18-wheeler driver, I spend 99.9% of my time in this truck. And I am looking at multiple hotspots. Currently, I run the TP-Link WR802N with the open spot. But I'm fixing to order 2 more open spots. My question is there a router that will run all three open spots simultaneously. I'm looking at 2 on D-Star and 1 on DMR. And I've looked, but I have not come across anything. So that's, I figure what better source to go to than a man with a dozen hotspots in front of him. Is there a router suitable for mobile use that I could use in the truck here to run 3 open spots simultaneously? KD0QZR, Lawrenceburg, New Mexico.
All right. Well, before I take a run at it, does anybody else want to answer this? Anybody know how to take a Wi-Fi cellular connection and split it out to multiple devices? That's, I think, what Justin's asking for. He wants to run multiple hotspots using his cellular connection. If anybody's done it before or knows how to do it, please can't now.
KE0AYJ.
I have Andy, KE0AYJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, it depends on the service you have, what cellular service provider you have. Some of them only allow one connection, and some of them allow 2 types of connection, one via the Wi-Fi and one via tethering with the USB cable. Mine, however, I can connect up to 15 devices to it, and I have been successful in running 4 Raspberry Pis simultaneously through it. With no problems, D-Star and everything else. Using the D-Star with multiple, listening to multiple reflectors on radio that I'm scanning 4 channels with. So, yeah, it is possible, but check and see. It should be in your agreement there on how many devices you can set up in there. But most typically, they allow 15 devices to connect.
Okay, Andy, and what provider do you use, and what kind of cellular Wi-Fi device do you use with it?
Okay, the straight connection is T-Mobile that I have, and it's an ON5, so it gives me the 3G connection and nothing more. I can go to a 4G if I want, up to cost and everything, but I really don't gain anything out of it. A little bit more bandwidth, I guess you could say, might be throughput, but and faster. But you still got that magical unlimited limit, as they say. If you consume so much data, use up so much data, and that's in or out, it downgrades you to the next lowest speed. My next lowest speed would be 3G anyway, so I'm on 3G now, and I've got 3 devices connected right now. So, and it's working. They work fine. So I can't say what other services would do, but T-Mobile seems to work for me. There is sporadic coverage in my area that I'm in now, but it works in Hawaii for me on the island, and that's stationary mostly. Very little traveling to do there. And then the other one are the ones that brag about the nationwide coverage, having the best, the latest, greatest, super duper, all for one big humongous price. So there you have it in a bucket.
Okay, Andy. Thanks for the detail on that. And does anybody else want to tackle this? How do you connect multiple devices on a single cellular Wi-Fi connection? If you've done it or you have an idea how, go ahead and key it now.
K6KD.
K6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, well, this may vary by plans, but at one point, AT&T would allow I think a maximum of 15 connections. And for certain plans and other plans, it was less, but they said a combination of so many Bluetooth, so many Wi-Fi, and a USB. So it looks like, my guess is that most of these plans, they try to be reasonably competitive. So I think it'd be unusual if you couldn't at least do 3 or 4 connections back to net.
Okay, John, let me ask you a question here. How do you work 2 or 3 devices on the thing? Are you using for example, a cell phone as a hotspot? And how would multiple devices connect through there? You just link to them as a is it just you just link to that cellular hotspot, and then it figures it out. The reason I ask is because the question of double natting comes in many, in fact, most cases. When you connect a cellular hotspot to your cellular provider, what you get is an address that's behind the network, the cellular provider's own net address translator, or NAT. And so once you're behind a NAT, you can't double NAT. You can't take that and then put your own NAT firewall behind that, which allows you to connect multiple devices and have a local NAT, etc. So I'm curious how that works. If you have a computer and a tablet and let's say just a computer and a tablet, and you want to connect them both simultaneously through a phone, is there anything special that has to be done in terms of assigning IPs, or does it just kind of work?
I think they deal with the NAT, behind the scenes. I'm just looking at my iPhone, iPhone 7 Plus, and it's with AT&T. They call it personal hotspot, which I guess others call it different things. But it's basically tethering and using your phone as a modem. So what it does is, if you turn it on, you're going to the internet through your 4G LTE cellular connection. And then you can connect. You have an option to connect using Wi-Fi, in which case it gives you a Wi-Fi. It gives you a Wi-Fi password, and it gives you the name of your phone, and you connect from your computer or other device. You can also connect via Bluetooth by pairing go through the normal pairing process between the phone and another device, or you can plug the phone into the computer and do it via USB. So that's basically it. They do the network translation, behind the scenes.
AA7US.
Okay, thanks, John. And AA7US. John, go ahead.
Well, I'm probably not going to recommend it from an efficiency standpoint, but I've run double and triple NAT without any. As long as the equipment can handle keeping track of all those address translations, it doesn't seem to be a problem for me. My wife and I are full cellular internet through typically a USB stick, or sometimes one of the hotspots, and then we have our own router and our own network in our RV, and won't go into all the technical details of why I'd wind up running triple NAT, but I've done it for months on end, and it doesn't seem to cause a problem. So back to you, AA7US.
Interesting. Yeah, of course, the biggest problem with if you want to double NAT, you're not going to be able to do any kind of port forwarding. The first net address translator in the one that has the actual outward facing address to the internet is where the port forwarding has to occur. So any mode that requires port forwarding is probably going to be out of there unless there's some other magic that can be done. But my understanding of it is that port forwarding isn't going to work. Now well, I'll tell you what. Let me send it back to AA7US. See if you have any comment on that, and then I'll go back to KD0QZR with my observations on it as well.
You're absolutely right. If you don't have access to the equipment to actually get your hands on to set up the port forwarding, then no, it doesn't work. Port forwarding is out of the question. Typically if you're using a hotspot from your cellular provider, they don't allow you to do port forwarding anyway. So therefore, a VPN can get around a lot of those problems. And for example, I run a nano node that has IRLP and Echo Link built into it. That's one of those micronode products, and you can load a VPN into it. You can activate a VPN and then bypass, like I say, even triple NAT, no problem. It blows right through all of that. But even if you do have access to all the equipment to set up the port forwarding, would you really want to do it for like 3 different pieces of equipment, or at a minimum 2? It's a nightmare you don't want to bother with.
KK4.
Okay, John, thanks. And KK4PP, go ahead.
Good evening. Let me first make sure I'm getting in okay. I'm a little ways away from the hotspot walking the dog here in South Florida. Am I making it in okay?
So far, so good.
W6KBM.
All right. I was just gonna say, my experience with AT&T and the iPhone is you can tether, and I don't know what the maximum number of devices you can connect to it, but I've connected several with no problem. And basically, the phone just assigns a range of IP addresses to whatever it picks up via Wi-Fi, and they all get their own internal IP, and you can actually SSH from one device to another as long as they're all tethered to the same device, and it just works fine for the most part. But I think the original gentleman that asked the question was asking for a router suitable for mobile use that he could connect to 3 open spots. And so I'm thinking he's asking about a portable router where he could have 3 wired connections, not 3 wireless connections. KK4PP back to net.
Okay, Jason. And I'm going to send it back to Justin before I've got a few more comments that they're out there. Do you have, is this all making sense? And is it addressing your question? And do you have any follow-up questions for any of the stuff that's been discussed at this point?
Yeah, I believe it was AAUS, and I'm sorry I just tailgated. Hopefully I'm getting through. Let me back off for a second. Okay. KD0QZR, Lordsburg, New Mexico. Mobile 18-wheeler. I believe it was AAUS that just, my wife called me in the process, but I believe he just finally answered or acknowledged my question there. Everybody, I think, missed my point. My Verizon phone, I can put 3 different routers connected to my phone. I'm looking for one router to run 3 different hotspots connected to my phone one time. Is there a way to do that? Maybe I wasn't very clear in my first question, but I'm wanting one router to plug in 3 open spots that will pick my Wi-Fi signal off my phone and disperse it to 3 different hotspots at the same time. I don't even know if it's able to be done, and if it's not, then I guess I'll use 3 different TP links and have 3 different connections to my phone, which I can do. But I was looking to consolidate
and try to get 3 open spots connected to one router and have that one router connect to my hotspot on my phone. Back to you there, Bob. KD0QZR.
Okay, I think it was John A7US that said that he actually double nets, and maybe John, you can throw a little bit more detail in how you're taking a cellular connection and then multiplexing that out. What sort of a device you use and how you get multiple connections from your single cellular Wi-Fi. If you can, go ahead.
Okay, Bob. Well, simple enough. The easiest method is to go get yourself a cellular hotspot. If T-Mobile has, even if they'll let you keep your 3G plan, but buy, or even go to Amazon or any place like that and buy a T-Mobile compatible cellular hotspot. It's basically a cellular data device and router all built into one, and you can connect multiple devices to that, typically only by Wi-Fi, not by Ethernet. Now, if you need to do the same thing, but you absolutely insist on keeping your phone as the source of the cellular internet data, then you'll need to get a separate router, and there are many on the market that support that. Wi-Fi as WAN, Wi-Fi as WAN is what you want to look for when you search for one of those. And what that means is that the router that you buy will use your cell phone with its little miniature Wi-Fi network as its source for the internet. So what I would recommend as a starting point is go to a place called the 3gstore.com and start reading the information they have there, search around and see what products are available, because that's kind of the jumping off point. That website caters to the mobile internet market. People who are RVers, truckers, whatever, living on the road, and they can kind of get you an idea of what's available out there. Now, I'm holding back on not mentioning what I do because it's probably way too complicated. I'm running a Microtik router, which is, very complicated to operate, so I wouldn't normally recommend it for someone who's not real well versed in networking, but it's very powerful. As a matter of fact, I've got 2 USB sticks plugged into it at one time, plus a cable modem where we are right now. We have cable internet. It's Wi-Fi as WAN. It does everything, but it's you almost have to have a networking to get it. Simpler, more user-friendly solutions out there.
Okay, John, you broke up a little bit there towards the end, but I think we got the gist of it there. And I was going to actually bring up the Microtik router because I know that Michael, VK5ZEA, down in Australia, he produced. Well, I haven't seen one of his videos in a while. He may still be making them, but I haven't seen one in a while. But Justin, you might look at. You might do a Google search or a YouTube search for VK5ZEA because I know he has in the past had a couple of portable hotspots where he used one of those Microtik routers. It took a cellular connection and actually put it on wired Ethernet, and if you can't get what you need out of one of his videos. He's a very helpful guy. Sending you an email might lead you down the path as well. If you're using OpenSpots, you've kind of got the choice of using. You'd have to have like 3 of those TP-Link boxes, which is kind of that's kind of inelegant brute force, if you will, to have to use a separate. Wi-Fi to Ethernet bridge for each device when you're running multiple hotspots. This doesn't really address your question. Let me change hands real quick. But in a more general sense, for folks that are using Raspberry Pi-based hotspots, with the G4KLX software, you can configure one of your hotspots as the gateway, and then use others and link them to the gateway Raspberry Pi. So if you wanted to run, say, 3 hotspots using DV Megas or DVAPs and Raspberry Pis, what you would do is set up one of your Raspberry Pis as a gateway, and you would use just a small internet switch, and they would be wired together through the switch, and then the gateway could connect via Wi-Fi, and it would in turn manage all of the other hotspots. I've actually done that in the past, but it won't work with an OpenSpot, unfortunately. It has to be the G4KLX, and you know, like I said, you take one of your Raspberry Pis, and it serves the dual function of the gateway and as one of the D-Star repeaters with a DVAP or DV Mega on it, and then you can put multiple other Pis, up to 4 of them, up to 3 more, a total of 4, including the one with the gateway. Run D-Star repeater on it, and you use the one with the gateway on it as the gateway, so it just communicates through the local switch, goes out through the Wi-Fi, and you can have up to 4 hotspots through a single gateway like that using just a single Wi-Fi connection. But it doesn't answer Justin's question. And with that, I'm going to send it back to Justin and see if you have anything more to add or follow-up questions for John or anybody else. KD0QZR, go ahead.
No, I think that pretty well sets me up. I'll check out that 3gstore.com and see what that's all about. And the plan is to build a new Go box that houses all 3 of these OpenSpots and all of my digital HDs and stuff like that. So when I get out of the truck and fly home, then I can take this box with me and still have everything I need to operate D-Star and DMR. But yeah, I'll check out that 3gstore.com, and like I said, if nothing else, I can run the 3 different hotspots or the 3 different routers connected to my phone without an issue. I think Verizon gives me 10 or 15, I don't remember, but that is an option. I was just kind of trying to eliminate needing 3 different routers to run 3 different devices. But I'll take a look, and appreciate all the input. KD0QZR, back to you there, Bob.
Okay, Justin, and if you run into trouble or if you make an enlightening discovery, please come back next week or sometime in the future and give us as Paul Harvey would put it, the rest of the story, and let us know how you made out. By the way, I would add that if you've not run multiple hotspots before, it's going to be a bit tricky to get 3 of them into a single box to where they don't trump on each other with the RF. You're going to have to be very careful about what frequencies you pick, and maybe dial the power levels down. If you're just using it in the cab, you might be able to turn the power way down and get away with it. But having 3 of them that close in a single box is potentially going to be a problem, because none of the hotspots that I know of have sophisticated front ends that are, the filter or the band pass and rejection characteristics on them are not like what you would get on a mobile radio or an HT even. They are considerably less sophisticated and less, let's just say, well engineered on the front end, and so you have to be a little bit careful there. But so your solution might also need remote antennas. There's the possibility that you could connect a short piece of like RG164 or whatever, that 8-inch diameter super thin coax, and run that a couple feet away, and and use a small mag mount antenna somewhere else. But just be aware that 3 of them in a single box is going to be tricky to say the least. And with that, we'll put that subject to bed and call for new topics. So anybody else, or if you got something more to add to this, feel free as well. But please keep up. W6KD in the net.
VE5XEF.
VE5XEF. Welcome to the roundtable. Go ahead.
Good evening, Bob. It's also Bob here. For what it's worth, and continuing on the same subject you're on, I'm holding in my hands right now a Huawei B960, which has 3 LAN ports on the back. It's got a SIM card built in. Now, I realize it's this one is working on it with the Canadian cell phone provider. As far as I know, it's basically the same service they offer here as what AT&T has in the U.S., so it should work. It's designed to run on 12 volts, so yes, there's a little power cube with it, but I'm sure it could be just a cable made up to plug it into the vehicle battery. So that's about all I can say. And like I say, it's a Huawei model B960, and it's rated for 4G.
Okay, Bob, you're going to have to spell Huawei, because that's a brand I'm not familiar with.
Okay, well, Huawei is a Chinese company that makes a lot of the cell phone switches and such that the various carriers use. I don't know if they're in the States, but they're all over Canada. It's HUAWEI, Hotel Uniform Alpha Whiskey Echo India Technologies Company Limited.
Okay, a Huawei B960, and that's, I suspect if they make one for the Canadian services, there's probably a U.S. variant and a European variant and an Asian variant as well, so that's good to know. It sounds like it's a dedicated Wi-Fi router that instead of just being a dedicated cellular router that rather than using Wi-Fi, it uses Ethernet ports. Does it also have a Wi-Fi bridge on it, or is it Ethernet only?
There's a little flap you can pull out where I can see there's SMA, SMA1, SMA2. I have not read the book to really go into it. I just know my son handles them. He runs an ISP, and he has them available. And they're basically used so when you go into a weekend at the local exhibition grounds for a trade show or something like that, and you want to have internet on there, and there's none available, you take one of these with you, and away you go. And I apologize. It's a tiny little print. It's a Bravo 890 model, not the other one.
Okay, so Bravo 890. Okay, well, that'll be interesting to just to do a little research on anyway. But thanks, and anybody else have anything more to add before I close this one out? Okay, not hearing anything, but so yeah, the trick is Wi-Fi as WAN, as John 87 US put it out there. So yeah, there are solutions out there. Like I said, Justin, once you figure it out and you get it all deployed and working, let us know what you did, because I guarantee there's somebody else that's going to want to do it as well. So very good. All right, any more topics or questions V-Star related, please key up now.
VE5XEF.
Okay, I've got K7REX and VE5XEF again. Dan, K7REX, good evening. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Held the generator, so I can hear it, you guys can hear. Anyhow, checking in through the internet satellite system, and everybody sounds great tonight. Good to hear you, Bob.
Hey, good evening, Dan. Yeah, you were a little bit rough on that last one. Why don't you give it a try again there? Key up maybe for a second or two, and then start talking. But there was some I don't know, just some severe. I wouldn't call it R2D2, just some severe digital artifacting, and it was a little bit broken up. So give it a try again.
Okay. Well, part of that was going. My wife kicked on the generator and the vacuum cleaner just as I checked in. And so where I was in the back of the cabin there, it was suddenly super noisy and I had to get away. Oh, here I am and here you are.
Okay, Dan. Well, it seems to be working okay. I don't think we've had the discussion yet on how you're working your D-Star connection through a HughesNet satellite. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Nothing special. HughesNet offers a satellite service for internet service, and you bring it down to a modem, and I plug a router into that modem, and in this case, I also plug the open spot into it, and I went in, and that's it. That's where it's at, and everything just seems to work.
Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, as far as the subject of emergency communications, which comes up from time to time, goes, I can't think of a better solution than that. I mean, mountaintop repeaters with backup power supplies are all well and good, but they aren't suitable for communicating outside of the footprint of even the mountaintop repeater. Generally, the purpose of emergency communications is to get traffic outside of the affected area. And of course, if you've got a D-Star radio with a hotspot that's communicating via a geosynchronous satellite, you can use it just about anywhere. If you got a view of the satellite, in other words, you don't have a big mountain sticking up in front of you to where you can't get where you can't see the satellite, you can pretty much use that thing anywhere. And I think that's a pretty slick setup for anybody. If you want a go box that won't quit, something like that would be pretty cool. Okay, well, thanks, Dan. And let's see, we had VE5XEF. Bob, did you key up again, or I see resync there, so it may have been something your hotspot did. If it is, just let us know.
No, I just bumped in. I just read the back of the box here, this Huawei. It is capable of 3 wired Ethernet connections, 32 Wi-Fi connections, and it has 802.11b, G, and N for the Wi-Fi. And that's about it. If someone's interested, I can always take a picture of the back or send out more information if they'd want. So if someone wants me, it's my call sign at gmail.com.
Okay, Bob. Well, thanks. And yeah, if you can find a link to it or whatever, maybe post it in the shout box. That'd be a good thing. So thanks for that. And let's see. I think we're out of topics. So anybody else with a topic or a question for discussion, please camp now.
K6JM KC8YQL.
Okay, we've got K6JM and KC8YQL. Jim, K6JM, welcome to the round table. Good evening.
Well, hi, Bob. Great round table. I was going for a while. Dog stuff, walking them. Hot here in Northern California, but that's right. Interesting topics tonight. I traded emails with Dan, and I forget his call sign. He's the author of the Blue Spot app. He's author of the Blue DV app, which works well with the Blue Spot and DV Mega boards. I was wondering if he was planning to upgrade Blue DV. And he said he is, but he wants to be real careful. He has a full-time or more than full-time day job, and he wants to be able to provide good support, so he doesn't want to overload the functionality. But I just was curious if people who have used the BlueDV app would be looking for, enhancements. My own one that I'm going to send back to him, he may not want to do it, is there doesn't seem to be any way to control linking from your radio RF commands. It has a wonderful GUI on, at least on the Android version that I use, but at any rate, I'm going to ask him for it, but I don't know if he'll be able to, if he'll want to do it. But I just thought I'd bring that up. I love my hotspot made up of a DV Mega plugged into a Blue Spot, and then communicating over Bluetooth to my Android phone running BlueDV. It's really nice. But like I said, I'd love to have RF control of linking. Back to you. This is K6JM.
Okay, Jim, you said he was cautiously approaching it or looking for inputs. I missed that point exactly, but yeah, I know a number of folks like the device, but pretty much everyone I've talked to that's used one has had kind of the same comment you just had, which is it really needs the ability to be linkable via the radio like most of the other hotspots. So, but anyway, if you could answer that, did you say he is this just sort of a advisement that he's sort of slowly developing or going back into development, or is he looking for inputs? I missed that.
I think he's customer focused, so in that sense he's interested in input. But I would not call him enthusiastically looking for new functionality to kludge up and then increase the size of the software. I think he'd listen to ideas, but he wants to balance that between the ability, if he adds a lot of functionality, it means there's more support, and he wants to be able to give good support. So I would answer by saying he'll listen to ideas, but he doesn't want to overdo adding functionality to it. That's the best I can do. K6JM.
Okay, Jim. Well, for those of you using the Blue Spot, it's probably when you find out that the guy behind it is in the process of maybe doing a little bit of development, even if it's not a huge surge, that's the time when the getting is good to get your druthers known, because letting somebody know what you want after he's already finished the development cycle isn't going to get you or him anything. So you know, sending a long laundry list of things you want probably isn't. It doesn't sound like that'd be the best thing. But if there's one or two things that you just wish it really would do or it had, maybe now's a good time to drop a dime on the developer and let him know, because if he hears it from 15 or 20 people, in close order, maybe he'll take that to heart and strap it on. So, thanks, Jim. Good to know. And with that, it's over to. No, that can't be. KC8YQL. Well, Bill, you're back.
Hey, Robert. And I have Dr. Robert. Dr. Bob from my buddy from up north, you had checked in there, so it's good hearing XCF in here tonight, too. Hey, Bob, I got a question for you. Have you been watching any videos out of Wisconsin this week? And then you can turn it back to me, and I'm going to tell you some more good stuff.
No, I've been immersed in my never-ending magnetic loop antenna project, so no videos of much of anything.
You didn't pick up on it, did you? I figured you would. Throw that flight simulator away and just go grab the real thing. Man, this whole week I've been just blasted out of my mind here watching all the tower videos from Oshkosh Air Show. And then tonight they had a panel of 5 astronauts from NASA that was on theater in the Woods segment. And all kinds of cool stuff. I guess the 3 highlights would be the car that flies. That will be available later this year. They have it there. 50th year for Rotoway, the original developers of the Scorpion LT that I ordered back in the 70s. Helicopter, which became an executive model now. And what was the third? There's another third. Quadcopter that you can set in, a two-seater quadcopter. So there you go. You need to build a flying saucer body around this quadcopter, and you could light up the neighborhood with that, couldn't you? Anyway, getting back to the ham radio stuff, this is going back to the middle 2000s. Maybe even before 2000. I was talking to N9QE, which started out about the original net controller for D-Star there on the West Coast. And he was ready to have me come out there and deploy Viasats to get the internet up to the mountaintops for the repeaters. And I told Larry, I said, well, it would work, but you got some legacy, up-down streaming, so it'll work, but it ain't going to be 100%. So I basically talked him and Cecil out of it. And, of course, now, 2017, if you guys seen the last heavy payload that EchoStar shot up, we're up to, 25 megs speed now. And they use the spoofing technology to level out the up and down stream. Let me do a quick reset here before I time her out. So, with the current generation of satellites, Nova Series by Hughes, XC that Bobby Heil uses pretty much exclusively for Ham Nation. When he's netcasting in, he's using the XC. And then there was Wild Blue, which kind of becoming decommissioned now. Everybody's switching to XC. So, Viasat, I've always still this, Bob, and I thought you heard me say it before, but maybe you did not. Maybe this is before you.
Okay, let's stand by. Bill tailgated himself, I think.
Beta tester for Galacta Home. Galacta Home made the actual transmitting horns to send up the stream to the satellite. And yeah, I beta tested for Galacta Home for like 2.5 to 3 years before Hughes started doing a two-way. Before that, they was running the telephone line out, called it the direct dual. You had to use telephone line out and then satellite down. So that was very, very clunky. And I had a Skylink on my big satellite dish, the C-band stuff. I was downstreaming off the satellite way before they come out with the Viasats for residential use. And here's the thing that really caught me, really woke me up. The beta test units that I was using, Bob, for Starband, I didn't have that thing hooked up a week, and they said I had 6 hours to correct the cross polarity on it, cross pole, because mine and 600 others was identified as knocking commercial satellites offline. And these was ones that's in power substations controlling the electricity grid. So yeah, if you look behind a fenced off area where you got these high voltage transformers, you'll find a Viasat normally in there that controls that substation. So, you know, very critical that when these things are installed, that they're set up properly. Of course, now we got more birds up in the air, and I imagine they dedicate just the other ones for, you know, different geosynchronous satellites. Anyway, taking up too much time, I will turn it back to you, sir, and check out Oshkosh Air Show. I can't believe you're not watching videos from over there. Back to net, KC8YQL.
Okay, Bill. There. Sorry. Yeah, you tailgated yourself and knocked yourself off of the secondary reflectors, the link reflectors there. You quick keyed after yourself. So always leave a gap, even after yourself. Anyway, everybody on XRF2 heard you, but everybody on the others did not. Yeah, one of these days I'm going to get back over there, but you know, my wife's aunt lives there in Neenah, which is just south of Oshkosh there, so we got a place to stay if we want to go up there. But yeah, other stuff going on. Anyway, thanks, Bill, and we'll have to get on and talk about some of that other stuff more off the net. Let's see. With that, I guess we're out of stations. Anybody else? Key up.
K7REX.
And we have Dan again, K7REX. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bob, I just want to do a quick follow-up on my satellite thing I got going here. I have tried the DV4 Mini. It works great on the downlink, but not the uplink for D-Star. It works just it's just garbage going up on the uplink. And I tried the DV Mega, and it's all over the place. Sometimes you get partial communications, sometimes not, and it's both directions. It's only the open spot so far I found.
KG7HQL. Audio check, please, here on D-Star.
KG7HQO, stand by. We have a net going on. And K7REX, yeah, you know, I've been wondering what maybe the open spot might be doing differently. I mean, the de-jitter buffer certainly explains why the receive end is working much better, but it doesn't explain why outbound transmissions would work better, because you still have that batching that happens with with packets that are going outbound. I'm wondering if maybe they're using QoS or something. Maybe sending it out like a VoIP signal or something. I don't know, but it's definitely improved since the last time it was tried, and I'd be curious to find out what they're doing different, particularly on the outbound side. So, but it's good that you got it working. I'm glad to see it it's working there. And let me send it back to you one more time.
Yeah, that's a mystery that I keep forgetting about. But I want to go over and see if I can cut that guy out of his secret, because I don't know how the uplink's working either. Downlink makes sense, but the uplink, I don't know how they're faking out the satellite, but they seem to be doing it.
Yeah, it could be along the lines of what Bill was just talking about. It might be that they've made some changes in the way the satellite infrastructure is handling the traffic. I know that there's a number of companies that really, really want to make VoIP phones work over the geosynchronous high Earth converge, and that's been a really tough nut to crack. First, you've got the inherent delay that you just can't work around that. That's physics. You got a half second or more of delay just because of the long path that it takes from the ground station up to the satellite and back. But yeah, it might be that there's been a change made in the system. Who knows? But I'd be all ears to hear what that what's behind the sudden improvement in the satellite links, because I know that a year or two ago we had I talked to a couple of stations that tried it and they weren't having any luck at all. So it could be the open spot, it could be the satellite infrastructure, it could be a combination of the two. Don't know, but I'd like to know. Let's see. KG7HQO, were you trying to get into the net, or did you just accidentally fall in here by mistake?
KG7HQO. I guess a little bit of both. I was having a problem with my open spot, and when I tuned in here, nothing was coming through audio-wise, so I did an audio check, and here I am. So yeah, I'd like to join the net if I could.
Okay, well, welcome. Yeah, this is the Thursday night D-Star Roundtable. We have this net every Thursday night on the Constellation, XRF2 Alpha, 310 Alpha, 555 Alpha, and 212 Alpha. So, yeah, we're here every Thursday night, so welcome. Anyway, and with that, I guess we're out of topics and out of stations. So, anybody with a question or a new topic to discuss, please key up now.
Well, I learned the KG7HQO. I learned a valuable lesson tonight on my open spot. So if I can contribute that.
K7RE.
Okay, I've got K7REX and KG7HQO. K7REX. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, to wrap up our conversation, it's a little both. I upgraded the satellite this year. I upgraded the Hughes to a much faster one. They got a new bird up there. I upgraded to it. And so that's what I thought, oh boy, maybe this other stuff is going to work. I got it's much faster link up and down. Works beautiful compared to what it used to. And that's when I came flying up here with all my hotspots trying to see what will work. The one I thought would work right off the bat was the DV4 Mini. And like I said, the downlink is great. Uplink doesn't make it. But so between that and whatever OpenSpot's doing, that seems to be the magic behind it. K7REX.
Okay, Dan, well, that's an interesting data point. Yeah, so maybe, sounds like maybe there is some, or has been some improvement in the actual satellite infrastructure. So yeah, that's good. It's always good to have options. I've toyed around with the idea of putting something like that on my motorhome. I still haven't been able to make myself go there, but you never know. So, okay, well, thanks. KG7HQO, W6KD in the Thursday Night Roundtable. Go ahead.
KG7HQO, well, I learned a valuable lesson tonight with my open spot. Generally, I'm able to access with my cell phone, and I saw on Facebook you guys are having a little tech talk roundtable tonight, so I tried to get in, and unfortunately, I was trying to get into Reflector XR200, not 002. So my status light on the open spot kept blinking red. I couldn't figure out what I was doing. I was searching around, and I switched over to DMR mode, and the status light went green, and I realized, okay, there's something maybe possibly wrong with my selection, so I double-checked and saw that it was Reflector 002A. I went back to the DMR side, reconnected, and then selected 002A, and boom, it went online. So sometimes you just got to double-check your settings, which reflector you're going to, and if you're heading to the wrong reflector and it's not online or it has a problem, it's going to show you a red blinking status light. So that was tonight's valuable lesson of the evening. KG7HQO, back to net control.
Yeah, them computers are obedient if they're nothing else. They will do exactly what you tell them to, even if you tell them to do something wrong. Anyway, glad you figured it out and glad you made it. If I had a nickel for every time I made an entry error like that and ended up on the wrong website I guess I haven't been on the wrong reflector too many times, but yeah, it happens. So anyway, good deal. Glad you figured it out. Glad you made it here. And for those people running open spots, red flashing light means trouble, I guess. That's a bit of feedback you don't get from most of the other hotspots, I guess. So if it's in the same room or when in doubt, go take a look, I guess, and or look on the web page. The open spot's got pretty good status page. That kind of shows you what's going on there too. Okay, let's see. I think we've run out of topics and stations again. So topics for discussion, questions, please key up now.
N5RKE.
N5RKE.
I have N5RKE. Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Bob. Talk about computers sometimes not being obedient. I had to reboot the Raspberry Pi to be able to connect here.
Well, when they're not obedient, you flog them back into shape.
Yeah, I fooled around with several other things before I thought, I'm just going to reboot this thing. I should remember what I used to do before I retired, and when people have computer problems, the first thing I say is, have you rebooted it? And, I need to follow that advice myself.
Yeah, I've had both with the DVAP and the DV Mega devices. I've had, random occurrences from time to time. Not often, maybe once every couple of months, but, in fact, just this afternoon I had the DVAP that I'm talking on right now. In fact, it all indications it was okay. Every time I keyed up, the little green light came on, but it was not talking to the Raspberry Pi. It was just sitting there, I guess, doing its own thing, and I had to reboot it to get the hotspot to work again. But there was nothing wrong in software. The Raspberry Pi was still responding to commands, but for some reason the USB port went dead, or or the USB interface chip on the DVAP stopped working right anyway. But yeah, power cycle and everything back in shape. It happened.
Yeah, the strange thing here, it seemed like everything was working. The DVAP was talking to the Pi because I could. Well, maybe it wasn't. At least the DVAP was powered up and working because I could get sysinfo back. No, it had to be sending emails, so I had to be talking to the Pi. So getting sysinfo. I was every time I tried a link, it would tell me not linked, and so finally just rebooted the thing and then linked right up to the reflector. I am going to head to bed. We're headed to the Santa Fe Opera and have a late night tomorrow, so get a little sleep tonight. So 73, and good to talk to you again, Bob, and 5RK.
Okay, Jerry, have a good trip tomorrow, and come back sometime when you can't stay so long. Okay, topics or questions for the roundtable, please, Captain.
N3WZU.
And N3WZU, Wes, go ahead.
Well, Mom, it's after midnight here in Maryland. It's been a great net. I've learned a lot. I was actually happy that I could pass some information on to someone else that got them started. I remember when I first got on D-Star, I didn't even know how to program the radio. Trying to work a local repeater. And here I'm playing with DV dongles and DVAPs and DV4 minis. Of course, you don't like them. I can understand why. But anyway, it's time for me to go down and check my list for holes. And I enjoyed the net, and hopefully I can check in next week. Thanks for doing it, Bob. 730 all, N3WZU.
Okay, Wes, have a pleasant evening, and yeah, we've gotten a reasonable amount of pretty good feedback. That we used to run this net an hour later. We used to start at 8 on the West Coast and therefore 11 p.m. On the East Coast, and we moved it to an hour earlier here about 6 or 9 months ago, and it's good that we can get our friends on the East Coast, even if they have to go to bed early or have to go to bed, it's not particularly early, but before we finish, at least we get that participation, so that's a good deal, and there we go. And we have been running for several hours now, and I'm not hoarse yet, but unlike the booming voice of Mike, I don't know that I can. I don't know how long I can run before I'm out of a voice. So if you have a topic or a question or a discussion item that you want to talk about, it's probably a good time to bring it up because I'm thinking we might be tapering off to call it quits here. So if you have anything important, now's the time. W6KD, get now.
KG7HQ. I have nothing hugely important to say other than it's nice to have a net like this. I'm new to D-Star, and sometimes even if people don't join in, they do monitor and listen and learn. And when you're new in a mode like digital like this, that's important. It gets people interested. And I'm using an open spot with my little HT in my hand, and here I am talking across the world. So I kind of like that. KG7HQL, back to net control, and thank you for your net.
Okay, Paul. Well, thanks for the nice words, and I would point out that we have a website. It's roundtable.tech, T-E-C-H, roundtable.tech, and at the top of that web page is a link to our Broadcastify feed, and we also do podcasts. of the net, and so you can not only listen to the net from last night. Tomorrow you can listen to the net from a month ago or whatever. So if you find yourself maybe wanting to dig into D-Star some more, you can listen to some of the nets gone by and perhaps pick up a couple things as well. I'm not sure how far back we keep them, but there's a lot of content there, and we do this every week at 7 o'clock Pacific time. We kick off here on the Constellation, so feel free to join us. And feel free to join us during the week, any other time on the Constellation here. It's a reasonably active place. It's not it's not constant chatter, but there's usually somebody around, and there's usually somebody knowledgeable around if you have a question. So we like maintaining the Constellation sort of as a go-to place for we've got a number of folks that are not just experienced D-Star operators, but actually infrastructure builders and developers and the likes, and so your questions could range from the easy to the nuts and bolts of how the whole thing works. And if there's not somebody on right that minute, there'll be somebody around, probably that day at least that if it doesn't know the answer, probably knows where to find it at least. So. Okay, let's see, any other topics? I'm curious if anybody, by the way, has a chance to cross the new ICOM 4100. I'm not a fan of the concept of the radio with this whole hotspot mode or the likes, but I don't think I've talked to anybody using one, and I certainly haven't talked to somebody that's gone on about having bought it and what they think about it. So is there anybody on the net using an ICOM ID 4100 that would like to share their observations on the radio? Go ahead. Well, crickets. Okay. Well, I've not yet run personally into somebody using one, so I'm sure there must be at least one person out there. But it appears to be a remake of the old ID 880 or IC 880. Same form factor, same size. Looks like the display is pretty much the same. They've just added the rather strangely conceived hotspot and access point mode, which requires you to cable tether a telephone, an Android phone to it, which for a mobile radio in particular, that seems pretty cumbersome. But I want to talk to somebody that's actually tried it. Who knows? Maybe it makes more sense in practice than it seems in theory. I guess we'll ask that one again at a future time. So it appears we're running out of steam here. So I'm going to make this the last call. If you've got a topic or a question for the net, now's the time, because I don't want to belabor it or drag it on. If we don't have anything to talk about, we could take a week and figure it out for next time. So if you got something burning, last chance. Key up now.
K7AOR.
K7AOR.
And Jeff, K7AOR, go ahead.
I know this is a D-Star roundtable, and if this question doesn't quite fit the hole here, let me know. But just for mobile purposes, and it reminded me because you were talking about the 4100. I'm becoming a digital addict. I like someone else mentioned, being able to use a hotspot and everything and talk all around the world. I envy Justin because he's using an open spot and he's driving an 18-wheeler across the country. Like the last time I remember him talking to him, like he was in California. But I'm just driving around here locally. Sometimes I can hit the repeater, sometimes I can't. Most of the time with my 51, which is what I have now, I can't. So I'm trying to decide. I have a Yaesu 8900 that I'm going to put in my truck. And I'm trying to decide if I should go with a Fusion mobile or if I should go with a D-Star mobile. And DMR just doesn't interest me at this point.
Okay, any stations want to help him out?
K6JM.
I have K6JM and KC5ALH. And KC5ALH for about the last 2 months. It seems like the first time you key up, we get about a 5-second blurb of R2D2 just artifacting or whatever. I don't know if you keyed up and said anything or if you just keyed up and quick keyed, but it seems like sort of a trend. And it usually is just the first time you key up. Well, when we get to you, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about the hardware you're using. Anyway, K6JM, Jim, go ahead.
Okay, well, in one sense, I'm the wrong person because I like all of those modes. I started with D-Star and probably prefer it, but I like DMR and I love the FT2D radio and the audio quality and the build quality of the Yaesu radios. So I guess my recommendation would be if RF isn't getting it for you, you might consider using some sort of a cell-based internet connection, whether it be from your phone or a device that you permanently install in your car. Then connect that to a multi-mode hotspot, which would then allow you to do whatever you want in the future. Start out with D-Star if you have a D-Star HT, and then go to Fusion later if you want. I know this isn't exactly the question you asked, but that would be my recommendation. And of course, then you could have QSOs when you're outside of RF range of any mode's repeater. But as long as you have some sort of cell phone connection. So that would be my recommendation. One of the early D-Star evangelists up here in Northern California, Tim Barrett, K6 DIV, then became later a DMR evangelist. Took a year or so ago, took a trip around the country where he mounted what I was just describing. He didn't do a multi-mode. He had a Motorola. He had some sort of an AT&T or Verizon device, and then 3 hotspots. But you can do it now with 1. Back to net. This is K6JM.
Okay, Jim. Thanks. Yeah, the hotspot you choose is as important as the radio anymore, and you can enhance or limit your flexibility, particularly going out in the future, depending on the choice you make with the hotspot as well, and we can talk about that a little bit more. But first, we're going to go to KC5ALH, and if you would please let me know what sort of hardware you're using. I'm just kind of curious, because the first key up, every time I see you on the net, it always comes through as that sort of artifacted. It's not really R2D2, but it's kind of like it. And you know, it's not that it's a problem. I'm just curious what sort of devices do it. I see you got a Kenwood radio, and I'm just curious how you're getting in.
Yes, sir, and good evening to everybody on the net. Yep, it's been doing that ever since I got the whole thing. I've talked about this before. It's the Kenwood 74 going into an open spot, but that doesn't make any difference. I can go into a DV4 Mini, or else I can use a Raspberry Pi with DV Mega. Or I can also just go through the local repeater that we have. So that's 4 different connection methods, and every single one of them will do it if I quick key the 74. Now, if I key up and hold it, then it will not. But if you quick key on the first go round with the 74 going into any one of those methods, it will just send a burst of that, and it does it ever since I've had the radio. And it doesn't make any difference what you do to it. You can reset it. You can have no programming running on it at all and just set a frequency on the VFO. I can go through all 4 of those different access methods, and it's going to do that.
Interesting, Paul. Yeah, if you've described that before, I wasn't around for it, I don't think so. One thing I'd be curious of, if you could take a look, and not now, but see if there is a delay before transmit parameter somewhere in the setup for the radio. I know that some hotspots in the past have had issues where they start throwing the GMSK data out before the radio has keyed up and stabilized, and it's generally solved with a delay timer that delays the actual transmission of GMSK data for a particular number of milliseconds, to allow the radio to key up and, all the, basically to get up and stabilized in transmit mode before it starts sending the stream out. And there might be a parameter in there somewhere that you can tweak, or not. I don't know. I don't have that radio, but that's the first thing I would look for. And anyway, so yeah, thanks for that. That's interesting and enlightening, and I'm sure that's not why you keyed up. So go ahead.
Nope, I keyed up to answer the question, and I have somewhat of a similar answer, but a little bit different. This is what I would do if it were me. And I have the ICOM stuff with I got a 7100 and have had a 5100. I don't now, but and have had a 51A, but don't now. But and then I also have the Yaesu stuff just as well, that FT2, and then the 400 and the 991. So I don't have anything against any of them. Here's my honest answer. I've noticed when I've gone traveling and when we go out of town, I run into, honestly, more D-Star repeaters that are actually on the network. I run into several C4FM repeaters, but a whole bunch of them are standalone and not on the network. So I think it's more advantageous to use a mobile radio with 50 watts to hit a D-Star repeater than I would a Fusion one. But I would pick an open spot, not an open spot, but any of the, the mobile hotspots that can do multi-mode instead of it being restricted just to D-Star. I would get one that would do the Fusion as well. And then I think I would come in with an actual mobile 50-watt mobile dual band radio that will do the D-Star, like the 5100. And then I would just use simply an FT2 or an HT only to access the Fusion whenever I wanted. And to me, that's the best solution, and that's what I would do.
Okay, Paul, thanks. I'm going to take a second here and answer the question myself, which is I have all. I have D-Star, DMR, and Fusion. I have including a Wires X node here at the house. I've got DMR that connects to Brandmeister, to DMR Plus, and to the XLX side of things, at least the prototype version, and then extensive amounts of D-Star stuff. And now I'm a dyed-in-the-wool D-Star guy. That's where I got my start. But I believe, from my experience and driving around, particularly on long trips, that D-Star is the best in terms of just finding activity and being able to link pretty much anywhere ad hoc at will with your radio without having to program things into your radio, etc. In terms of quality of the audio, the DMR radios are the best mobile radios. Just because I haven't encountered one yet, especially a mobile that didn't have an absolute just a clear advantage over both D-Star and Fusion radios because they build really powerful audio amplifiers in them and strong speakers because they're made for public service and public safety type of, in commercial environments that are high noise, etc. Let me change hands. But in terms of where you can go and who you can talk to, it's a little bit more limited on the DMR side. But with the advent of the transcoding and stuff, it's all going to be a little bit more blurred even still here in the near future. But if I had to pick one for mobile use, I'd go with D-Star right now still, hands down. I've driven across the country and I can always find a reflector with activity on it, unless it's like 3 in the morning or something, But as long as you've got a cellular connection, you've got a hotspot to connect into the constellation here, into your favorite reflector wherever, and it's far and away better than any mobile solution I've ever had before. The Yaesu radios. WiresX is proprietary, and you can't really get to it from an onboard hotspot in your vehicle. So very, very limited in what you can talk to with the Yaesu radio. So if I got to choose between D-Star and Fusion, I go with D-Star hands down. And DMR would be a strong second option, mostly because of the audio. You put one of those radios in your vehicle, and it'll blow you into the back seat in most cases. I've got a Hytera MD3 or 782G that if I turn it 3/4 of the way up, I can hear it, 40 feet away on the other side of the house on the next floor up. It's that loud and very clear too. So that's my 50 cents on the 2-cent question, and I'm going to send it back now to. I'm trying to remember who asked the original question here. I'm going to have to go back to my list. Oh, K7AOR. Jeff, did we answer your question? Do you have any follow-up?
I think you guys all made strong points, and I was just looking for more, I think, for myself to rule out the Yaesu. I can see where DMR has an appeal, because I work in public safety as my full-time job, and we're on the P25 here in Phoenix. And while sometimes it's annoying to get bonked, the audio is pretty clear. But yeah, I think I'll just keep that 8900 in my truck for FM, and then maybe I will just get a cheapy 3G hotspot, and put another shark open spot in my truck, and just use this HT that I'm on right now just to do that. It doesn't seem like you really need to have a larger radio unless you're going to try to hit them from the radio itself.
Yeah, you can do that. The HTs tend to be a little bit underperforming in the audio department when you get into a vehicle. If there's any kind of significant road noise or I use my D-Star HTs are Icon IC92s, and I've had them in the vehicle. In fact, the first trip I took across the country with a hotspot in the car was with my HT, and I pretty much had to put the speaker mic on it and clip the speaker mic onto the seat belt right up by my left ear in order to be able to hear what was going on the radio. And this is in a fairly nice BMW that's quiet and not very it's not a lot of road noise. And even still, what road noise there was made it a little bit iffy in terms of being able to hear what was going on. I couldn't imagine, doing that in a louder vehicle, or if you've got kids playing music or anything. Anyway, HTs, but you can make it work. You can make it work. But the other thing is if you get a D-Star radio, pretty much all of the mobile D-Star radios are dual VFOs. You can have analog FM on one side and D-Star on the other and do both with the same radio. You don't have to have you could take your AC radio and put it in the house, or you'd have both in the one radio if you went with a D-Star radio. So you could take the other one out and use it elsewhere. And with that, I'll send it back.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a strong point. Maybe I need to look at leaning towards the 5100 and getting a good deal on one of those, so that I could have both of those capabilities as opposed to the 4100. I appreciate everyone's information. It's my first time on this net, and 73 to all of you guys, and I'll send it back to you, Bob. Thanks again.
Okay, Jeff. Well, remember us. We're here every week, so come back and visit again. And with that, I'll send it out again. Any more questions or topics before the net closes? Key up now.
W4GMI.
W4GMI, the voice of Radio Free Vernon. Good evening, David.
Good evening. Your thoughts have been illustrated tonight. I appreciate the comments you've been making. I am looking for an item for duplexers. We rebuilt a set of tailwave duplexers, and the tailwaves had a flaw on the harness, the coax harness. They used crimp-on teeth. I am looking for a place to get the N-type teeth. Does anybody know which website I could go to look for that and possibly purchase some? Over.
W6OSO, Mike, can you help him out? And W6OSO, I saw you key up. Did you have an answer for David, or did you just accidentally key up there?
Well, that's okay. I was just thinking Amazon's not my most favorite place to go get connectors like that and everything. But anyway, I appreciate it. We'll still search on W4 GMI.
All right, David, I'm not sure I followed your question. You're looking for what kind of connector?
Okay, on a set of duplexers. I have a set of tailwave duplexers, and we rebuilt the coax harness. And the T that that goes around to each duplexer is crimped on tailwaves. It's not the best design. That's a really bad flaw in that. And eventually the coax starts breaking down out of the connector. So what we've done, we went back and replaced everything with N-type connectors. And I'm missing 3 T's to go back on the duplexers to go into each can, and then the coax comes out of it, goes over to the next duplexer can. Over.
Oh, okay, I understand. Did you look over at RF Parts? That's probably the first place I'd look for any kind of exotic RF connector. RFparts.com.
Okay, thank you. I will take off and go look for that. I just cannot think of any websites at this time that would have that stuff. And the problem is those connectors are somewhat pricey, but if you want a good clean signal, that's the way to go. All right, thank you, sir. Everybody have a great night. Good stuff tonight. W4 GMI.
W4.
I must have dropped out on the last transmission. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. Good stuff tonight on the net. W4 GMI.
Okay, David, good luck with that search. If they don't have it, I'll bet you anything they could tell you where to find it. So if you don't find it on their website can be a little bit it can be a little cumbersome searching through it just because they got so much stuff there. But if you call them, I found their sales guys to be pretty knowledgeable. So there you go. Anyway, and then of course there's places like Newark and Mouser Electronics as well might have it as well. But yeah. Anyway, for coax connectors and hardline connectors and that stuff, that's kind of been, my first stop has been RF Parts. So anyway, any more topics or questions for the net? Please get it. Okay, well, we're about 2 hours and 36 minutes into it, so I guess we've had a good go of it tonight, and hopefully Mike will be back in the saddle for next week's edition of the D-Star Roundtable. Again, we post we have the Broadcastify feed, which is archived, and we post a podcast of the net. Usually it makes it online in the morning of Friday following the net. So tomorrow morning we shoot for noon as the latest. And if you missed it or missed part of it and want to go get a fill, you can certainly do that. The links are at the top of the page at roundtable.tech. The net would not be possible, along with all the supporting stuff like the Broadcastify feed and the podcast, without our cast of Kings of Digital players, including John K6KD, Ming KK6MYS, Rob WA6JFK, and if I'm forgetting somebody, forgive me. And then of course Mike spends an inordinate amount of time running the net, and he's hopefully he'll be back feeling better next week. So with that, I'm going to say 73. Thanks to everybody for participating. Without your attendance and participation, this would be pointless. There's always I never leave here without learning a thing or two. I hope nobody else does either. It's the best clearinghouse for information and discussion on technical topics in D-Star, maybe in digital radio, period. And we're proud of that, and we hope we'll have you back again next week. So join us 7 o'clock next Thursday on the Constellation. This is W6KD 73, and good night, everybody.